Hi guys. Today we're going to talk about comparing and ordering fractions, and there's different ways that you can do this. So the first one is to find the least common multiple, and multiple means to multiply. So that's when your numbers are getting larger by a factor, times 1, times 2, times 3, and so on. So if you take a look, the first example that I have is to find the multiples between 4 and 6. So I list out my 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, and then I list out my 6s, 6, 12, 18. This is an infinite set, so you can see that the common multiples are 12, 24, and 36. The least common multiple then would be 12. So let's take a look at an example. Today the school baseball and soccer teams had games. The baseball team plays every 6 days, while the soccer team plays every 5 days. When will they both have games on the same day? So I take the 6 and I list them out, and then I take the 5. So I can see the next time that they have a common number would be at day 30. They would play again. So let's try a couple. We have 3 and 4, and we can list out our 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. We can list out our 4s. 4, 8, 12. And you could see the least common multiple would be 12. If we look at 4 and 5, list out our 4s. Well, we've just done that. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And then list out your 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20. Your least common multiple here is 20. Now if we list out between 3, 4, and 5, well, we know here between 3 and 4 is 12, and between 4 and 5 is 20. So really, what I want to find out is when will they have a common multiple. So if I think about it, I know my 5s, it's going to be 20. 5 and 4 is 20. And then if I double that, 40. If I double that, 60. So I know that 4 is also a multiple here. It's a multiple here. And it'll be a multiple here as well. So really what I need to think about then is when will 3 have a common multiple? So if I did my 3s, I could go 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, all the way out. So, but I can look here and I can see 15. If I double that, so if I'm looking at my 3s, I know 15. If I double that, 30. That's still not in here. If I double that, or add on another 15, 45. And if I add on another 15, the least common multiple here between 3, 4, and 5 would be 60. Okay. And I can also just sit there and list out all my 3s, all my 4s, but you can see that's going to be 20 multiples of 3. That's going to take me a while. There's an easier way of doing this. You can take the prime factorization. That's a factor tree, okay, to find the least common multiple. So now I'm looking at larger numbers, and that's when it gets more difficult, and this is the best way of doing it. So I'm going to factor tree 12, 3 times 4. I could do 2 times 6. It doesn't make a difference. You're always going to get the same. And that comes down to 4 is 2 times 2, or use exponents, 2 squared times 3. If I do 40, it's 4 times 10. 4 is 2 times 2. 10 is 2 times 5. And that gives me 2 to the 3rd power times 5. Okay, so now you're going to take every factor. So I have 2s, I have 3s, and I have 5s. But you take the highest exponent. So 2 to the 2nd or 2 to the 3rd, I'm going to choose the 3rd. So 2 to the 3rd times 3 times 5. Now remember, 2 to the 3rd is 8 times 3 times 5. And that would give me 120. So let's try a couple. 6 and 16. So this is going to be 2 times 3. And this is going to be 4 times 4, which comes down to be 2 times 2. And again, 2 times 2. So this is going to give me 2 to the 4th power. And this is going to give me 2 times 3. So my least common multiple, well, I have 2s. The greatest exponent is 4 times 3. And 2 to the 4th is 16 times 3 is 48. Now if I take a look over here, 12, 15, and 18, again with 3 numbers, it's a little bit more difficult. So 12 is going to be 3 times 4, 2 times 2, or 2 squared times 3. And 15 is simply 3 times 5. And 18 is going to be 2 times 9, which is 3 times 3, or 2 times 3 squared. And my least common multiple is going to be 2. And I have 2 to the second power or 2 to the first. So I'm going to choose 2 to the second power times 3 times 5. Whoop, 5. And 2 to the second power is 4 times 5 is 20 times 3 is 60. Okay. Let me see. Oh, made a mistake there. I have to take 3 to the second power. So 2 squared is 4 times 9 times 5. And 4 times 5 is 20 times 9 is 180. Whoop. Okay. Let's line that up. Now, take a look at example 3. Find the LCM of 6a squared and 18a cubed. Now, the only difference here is I have variables. So if I take a look at the 6, it's 2 times 3, and then times a squared. 18 is 2 times 9, which is 3 times 3, which is 2 times 3 squared, and now it's times a cubed. So again, we have 2's and 3's. 2 is both to the first power, 3 is to the first, and this one's to the second, so we're going to take 3 to the second power. Now a is simply a factor. We just don't know what it is, so we're using the variable a. So I have a to the second power, a to the third. Again, you take the highest exponent, so that's going to be the third. So 3 squared is 9 times 2 is 18, a cubed. So let's take a look over here. Again, factor tree. 3 times 4, 2 times 2. So this is going to give me 2 to the second power times 3 times x. This is going to be 3 times 5, or simply 3 times 5 times, now I have two variables, x and y. So my least common multiple is going to be 2 squared times 3 times 5 times x times y. 2 squared is 4 times 5 is 20 times 3 is 60 x, y. Easy, you're just including the variable. This is going to give me, for 25y squared and 15x, this is going to give me 5 times 5, or 5 squared times y squared. And this is going to give me 3 times 5, or 3 times 5 times the variable x. So my least common multiple is going to be 3 times 5, and again to the second power and to the first power. So I'm going to use the second power, and times x times y squared. And you go in the order of the alphabet. So 5 squared is 25 times 3 is 75 x, y squared. Then the next thing I'd like you to be able to do is compare fractions by finding the LCD. LCD is just simply the least common multiple, but now because we're talking about fractions, it's of the denominator. That's the number that you need to get in common. So if you take a look at the example, compare 5/8 and 7/10. Well, I want to look at the denominators of 8 and 10. So 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2, or this is 2 to the third power. 10 is 2 times 5, or just 2 times 5. So now what I'm going to do is get the LCD. Remember, that's just the least common multiple of the denominators. So that's going to give me 2 to the third times 5, and 2 to the third is 8 times 5 is 40. Now once I get a common denominator, I make equivalent fractions. Well, so if I'm going to use 8 times 5, it would be the fifth multiple to get to 40. I have to do the same multiple for the numerator. 5 times 5 is 25. And over here, 40 is the fourth multiple. 10 times 4 is 40, so 7 times 4 is 28. Now you're going to compare the numerators. Well, 25 is less than 28, therefore 5/8 is less than 7/10. So let's try one. Okay, we have 6/7 and 4/5. So we're looking at the 7 and the 5. They both happen to be prime numbers. So 7 times 5 is 35. That's the first multiple they will have in common. So if I take a look and make them both, it's hard to reach across the board, out of 35, 7 times 5 is 35, so 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 7 is 35, so 4 times 7 is 28. This is greater than that one. And let's take a look at our last example here. Order from least to greatest. Now make sure you look, because I could say order from greatest to least. We usually do least to greatest, but I can change it, so make sure you're looking at the directions. Now I have 3 fractions, 1/2, 3/4, and 2/5, and again I'm going to look at the denominators, 2, 4, and 5. Well, the LCD, I can factor this out just like we've done before, and the LCD here is going to be 20. So if I make equivalent fractions all out of 20, 2 times 10 is 20, so 1 times 10 is 10. 4 times 5 is 20, so 3 times 5 is 15. And 5 times 4 is 20, so 2 times 4 is 8. Now I'm going to look at just the numerators, 10, 15, and 8. Now remember I asked you to go from least to greatest. Well, this is the smallest, so then you order the original form. So if 8/20 is smaller, it was originally 2/5. Then we go to 10/20, which is 1/2. And finally, the greatest one is 15/20, so that would be 3/4. All right, so let's try the last example. Okay, I'm going to slide this over a little bit so I can reach it. 2/3, 1/6, and 5/12. And eventually you just get to know. So in this case, the least common denominator is going to be 12. So, and what's nice, I don't have to do anything on that one. And 6 times 2 is 12, so 1 times 2 is 2. And 3 times 4 is 12, so 2 times 4 is 8. And again, now we look at the numerators. 2/12, the original form was 1/6, and then we go to 5/12. And finally, 8/12, which was 2/3. And put commas in, and that's in order from least to greatest. And that's it. Good luck.